Welcome to Video Book Chapter 55. How did you forget who you are? If you're an always connected extension of all that is, and you are, how is it that you forget who you are? And if everybody is an always connected extension of all that is, how is it that this forgetfulness seems so universal? And what does it mean to be connected anyway? And these are great questions, and they cut to the heart of who you are and what you're doing here. But they can only be answered if you step outside the normal boundaries of your thinking. It's not that the answers are complex. They're not. It's just that you can't answer them from a space-time perspective. And that's the challenge. Let's start with a simple answer, and we'll get to the more expansive answer as we proceed. By law of attraction, there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, because everything you experience is a match to your vibrational set point, and the only thing that determines that set point is what you've chosen to believe and expect. So we say this to the thinking consciousness that's you. All you have to do to change something about you and your worlds is to make a new choice about what to believe and get into alignment with that choice. How you do that, of course, we go on about at great length in this community, but it really is that divinely simple. Depending, of course, on the habits you've developed, it may not seem easy, but it is simple, and it can be easy. That also is up to you. So now let's expand on that a little. You'll notice that we said change you and your worlds plural. In terms of you being the decider about everything, is there any real difference between the things you experience physically, your body and the world around you, and the things you experience that are non-physical, or what you might call spiritual? Answer, no. Sure, there's no space and there's no time involved with non-physical things, but they are just different parts of your movie, your illusions. And if they're in your experience, you're creating them. Take us, for example. You're creating us in your experience, and we're as disembodied as it gets. As we said at the start, we're challenging you to step outside the bounds of normal thinking. Can you see that what you choose to believe becomes? And what's become already is what you've previously chosen to believe. Nothing more, nothing less. We know it's upside down from the way you usually think, but you don't learn or discover how everything is. From a multitude of options, you choose how it is. When you supposedly discover new things, all you're doing is filling in some of the detail about a world you've already decided upon. You're simply coloring in between the lines you've already drawn. Did you choose planet Earth? Well, in general terms, yes. But it's not like God gave you a catalogue and you sat down and made a selection. Let's look at a possible sequence of some of the gazillion choices you've made. Each choice defines a new set of boundaries for your experience. You chose a certain focused shape for your consciousness, a big and very fundamental choice. You chose what turned out to be a realm with time and space and gravity. You chose to emerge into it, be born perhaps, on what turned out, from later choices, to be a certain date and time and to certain parents. And by later choices again, you decided perhaps it was a round blue planet in the Milky Way galaxy, etc., etc., etc. Let's give you another example of those boundaries. Let's say a friend texts you saying that they're bringing somebody over for you to meet. What do you know about this stranger? You might say, nothing yet. But in fact, since it's another human, you already know a lot about what's possible, what's probable, and what's impossible. You already have these boundaries established by what you've chosen to believe about humans and about what your friend might do. What will show up when you meet them will be within those boundaries and will be a match to you at that point in time. Then you'll make some new belief choices about them and establish, probably, some narrower boundaries. So how is it that you forget who you are? This week, this one heard it explained as, you agreed to forget as a condition of joining this game. It's a simple answer and it's sort of on the right track, but it's a one-dimensional answer to a multi-dimensional question. It implies that there's something external to you making the rules. It also implies that changing those rules is perhaps not a choice you can make. These are not absolute truths. By what we've set out here, we're wanting you to see that what and where you are is simply an evolution of the choices you have made. There's nothing external to you making independent choices for you. You're the decider of it all. Well, how come everybody sees it the same? How is it this forgetfulness seems so universal? And we say, which version of your worlds are you talking about? We promise you there's an equally valid version of the movie called Life on Earth, where everybody knows about and believes in the law of attraction. And there's an infinity of versions between and beyond and above and below this version you seem to be in, and that one. So can you see, you cannot examine the world and then use it to support your beliefs. It's your beliefs that create it. And those beliefs, as we say, come with their own life support system. Once made, you and your matching context will always be in alignment with those choices. So now let's get to, what does it mean to be always connected? Firstly, recognize that in non-physical, there can be no shapes and boundaries between those physical characteristics. Those are physical characteristics, and there can be no shapes and boundaries. So when we talk, for example, about things like the conscious you, your subconscious, your superconscious, or higher self, and your tapestry of expectations, we use these labels for convenience. But it's worth always remembering in discussions like this, that even as in a spectrum of white light, there are no boundaries between red and orange and yellow. So there are no discrete boxes here. And that connection and flow extends back to the source of everything, to all that is. When you get an idea, so to speak, from out of the blue, it comes from somewhere along that connection to source. It's not some sort of random firing of neurons in a physical brain. When an author writes a book and says the characters took over writing the story, and when a songwriter writes a new song and says it was just a matter of getting out of the way, they're talking about that connection. We're a part of the connection that's going on right now as we explore this subject with this one and with you. It's the old, what does a fish know about water question. You don't ever lose your connection. You're just so used to it, you don't see it for what it is. We know that the physical world looks so real. It's your context. It exactly matches you. That matching context is always going to be what seems to be the most real thing possible until you make a significant new choice. When you do that, like waking up from a dream and inherently knowing that your awake world is more real than your dream world, your new world will now be that new, more real version of quote-unquote reality. So do not let so-called reality fool you. It is by making new choices that you step between versions of you. And when you do, that ever-present context changes to the new matching version, and you have a new stage on which to play out your experiences. It's all an inside job. So if in this version of you seem to have forgotten who you are, we say that it's a personal choice you made at some point, and it's a choice you can unmake. Our intent here has been to get you out of your box a little. When you step out of the game and observe who you are always able to see, perhaps dimly at first, but then always with increasing speed and clarity, the infinite being that you are. And that's because your inherent nature is to dream new things into existence. We're just here to remind you. And who was it again that created us in your experience? You. We look forward to your questions.